Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're tackling a really fundamental question, something that I think touches anyone looking for a deeper spiritual connection. It's this question, maybe sometimes asked silently, why do we pray? More specifically, why does Allah ask us for our worship? Does the Creator, the absolutely sufficient, does he somehow need our small acts of devotion?
That question, it really gets to the heart of it, doesn't
Yeah.
it? Understanding our relationship with the divine. And we're not just looking at this in theory today.
Right.
Our source for this deep dive is quite rich. It's based on a conversation, really, that weaves together personal stories, reflections on major texts like Razeli Nur, and some really powerful examples.
Exactly. And our mission, really, for you listening, is to come on this exploration with us, to look at this puzzle, does Allah need our prayer? And maybe more importantly, uncover the answer our source found, which is, it's quite insightful, maybe even surprising.
It is. It sort of pivots away from divine need.
Right, and focuses more on things like loyalty, our intention, and how sacrifice actually becomes this path towards spiritual growth. We want to approach this with the sensitivity it deserves, for anyone interested in these profound topics.
Absolutely. It's about getting past just the motions of worship, isn't it?
Yeah.
To really try and grasp the inner meaning, the purpose, as presented in this source material.
Okay, so let's dive in. Let's unpack this. The source starts with a moment, a really relatable one, that apparently kicked off this whole train of thought.
Yeah, it's described as just an everyday scene. Someone's in a car, maybe driving, maybe just traveling, and then you hear it.
Azan.
The azan, yeah. The call to prayer. That sound fills the air.
A sound so familiar to millions, marking that specific time for prayer. And the source describes two, completely different reactions in that car.
Right. One person, one friend, suggests something pretty logical from a worldly point of view, like, hey, let's keep going. We're busy, right? We can pray later, find a more convenient time.
Makes sense on one level, prioritizing the immediate task.
Totally. But the other friend, the one whose reflections really drive our source material, has a totally different response. Immediate. Decisive.
No hesitation.
None. The source says he just replies simply, but with this deep conviction, no. It will wait.
It will wait. Meaning the journey, the business, whatever worldly thing they were doing, that pauses.
Exactly. That yields. The prayer comes first. Period.
And the source really focuses on the feeling behind that, doesn't it? Asking, how did he feel inside? What allowed him to just know the priority like that? That phrase, it will wait. It wasn't just words. It felt like it came from deep down.
Yeah, it carried this weight of understanding, where the real priority lies.
It sets up this tension immediately. The source brings up a hadith, a saying of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, about certain prayer times being your most acceptable prayer time. These moments are like divinely appointed windows.
Right. And here's someone acting on that so strongly, they basically tell the whole world, hold on a minute. It just underscores how incredibly important answering that call right then, right there, felt to him. Precisely. And that kind of unwavering focus, that intensity around prayer, it naturally leads to the big question the source is wrestling with.
Yeah, why? Why is prayer so central? Why is it commanded so often with such emphasis? Why does Allah, need our worship so much?
And the source tackles that idea of needs straight away, pushing back quite firmly.
God forbid, they say. This is not need, it is necessity.
Yes. And that's a crucial distinction. It's not need like a lack, like God is missing something without our prayer. That just doesn't fit with the concept of an absolutely sufficient creator.
Right, impossible.
So it's a necessity, they say. But then the focus shifts immediately back to us, asking, is it us that depend on him, or is it my prayer? Starts probing. Why is it necessary for us? What does it do for us?
And the source really drives home how prayer permeates everything in their study and life. They observe, like sleeping and talking about prayer, waking up and talking about prayer. It's constant.
Woven into the fabric of things. And they state, every lesson we read is related to prayer.
Which is a huge statement. And they give this profound reason why they believe that's the case.
It's powerful. The source says, because the universe exists for this, the result of the universe, the product of man is prayer. Our result is prayer, supplication.
Wow.
What is the result of the tree? Fruit. What is the result of man? Prayer, supplication, nothing else. You have no prayer, you are truly meaningless.
That's breathtaking, really. It elevates prayer beyond just a duty. It's presented as the very purpose, the ultimate fruit of human existence, maybe even the universe itself.
It really does. And they point to the Quran to back this up, mentioning a verse, an ayah, where people in hell are asked why they ended up there. And a key reason given is, well, they weren't among those who prayed. And they add that if you just tried to count the verses about prayer in the Quran, your brain will be confused. It's just that prevalent, highlighting the sheer divine emphasis.
So you've got this incredible weight placed on prayer. It's the purpose of existence, crucial in the afterlife, repeated constantly in Scripture. But the source is also honest about a feeling many of us might recognize.
Yeah, that internal paradox.
Right. Despite knowing all this, they admit, we also say that prayer is not enough. We also say it has meaning.
Right.
There's this human struggle, isn't there? Recognizing its importance, but sometimes feeling our own prayers fall short, or maybe not fully grasping the depth of it ourselves.
Absolutely. It captures that internal wrestling perfectly.
Right.
And after all that study, all that emphasis, the core puzzle still lingers, maybe even sharper for the person in the source. Why does Allah need our worship so much? If he's self-sufficient, yet prayer is this important. What's really going on? What's the purpose for us? That was the knot they needed to untangle.
And finding the answer wasn't straightforward, according to the source. It took time, dedicated study, and the clarity finally came from a specific text.
Razel Inur, yes. A major commentary on the Quran, known for its spiritual depth. The source describes their initial struggle with it on this very topic. Reading just a small place, half must be split, suggests it was dense, layered, required real effort.
You get the sense it wasn't easy reading.
Not at all. And they express this real wonder, almost disbelief, at the meanings they started uncovering. You will be surprised by the meaning. How were such meanings created? I cannot understand. There's a humility there.
It's striking. And it wasn't just a solo effort. They mentioned reading together.
Right. We gather and read. We negotiate so that we can understand together.
Yeah.
It sounds like a shared journey of discovery. And even after figuring things out, the awe remained. We ask, how did the author write this? How did the printer print it? Calling it mind-boggling, the very strange inspiration. They felt it was something beyond just human intellect.
So, for this specific question, why worship? They pinpoint the exact place where the insight clicked.
Like finding the key, they say, look at the 24th word. There's a short paragraph in the 5th branch and the 2nd fruit. Very specific. And in that small paragraph, apparently, lay the answer.
And the answer came in the form of a parable, a story.
Yes, a story to make a complex spiritual idea more, well, graspable. It's about a man going before a great sultan with a gift.
Okay, let's picture this. The Sultan representing immense power, wealth, majesty, like the divine.
Then there's that man representing us, the humble servant, and critically, there are others there too, companions, presenting these incredible gifts.
What kind of gifts?
This source says diamonds, rubies, emeralds, things of huge earthly value fit for a king.
Okay, so you've got these dazzling offerings, and what does our man bring?
This is where it gets almost painfully humble. His gift is described as something worth 1 cent, or maybe 5 cents. Specifically, a piece of tin.
A piece of tin, surrounded by diamonds and rubies.
Exactly, imagine that. And the source asks, what would be the normal reaction? Now, normally what would we do? We will be ashamed and put it in our pocket immediately.
Totally. You'd feel ridiculous. How could you possibly offer that? You'd want to hide.
That's the expected human response. Shame, inadequacy. But the man in the story does something completely unexpected.
What does he do?
He doesn't hide the tin. He steps forward boldly and says to the Sultan, "Oh, my master, my lord, I present to you all these precious gifts in my name."
Wait, he presents the other gifts, the diamonds and rubies, in his name? That sounds audacious, maybe even dishonest.
It does on the surface.
False.
But the source explains the deep reasoning. He adds, because you deserve them. If I had the power, I would give you that much.
Ah, okay, so he's not claiming he owns the diamonds.
No. He's using his action, his declaration, to show he recognizes the Sultan deserves those amazing gifts. His humble offering, the tin, isn't the point. The point is his acknowledgement, his intention, his desire to give what's truly worthy, even if he can't materially. The piece of tin is almost like a token representing that vast intention.
Okay, that makes more sense. But why is this even acceptable to the Sultan? How can he just sort of claim to present others' gifts?
This is the crucial part, according to the source. In the reality of the Sultan, our usual ideas of ownership don't quite apply. Ultimately, everything already belongs to the Sultan.
Everything.
Everything. The piece of tin in the man's hand belongs to the Sultan anyway. The diamonds and emeralds from the others belong to the Sultan. The man himself belongs to the Sultan. His companions, they also belong to the Sultan.
Ah, I see. So the Sultan is the absolute owner, the source of it all. The man isn't really claiming ownership in our sense. He's acknowledging the Sultan's total ownership and aligning himself with that truth. His gift isn't the object, it's the recognition.
Exactly. It's a profound shift in perspective. And this leads directly back to the core question, but now viewed through this lens. Does my Sultan need a gift?
Well, if he already owns everything.
And the answer, illuminated by the parable, is crystal clear in the source. No. He doesn't need anything. He lacks nothing.
Okay, so if the Sultan doesn't need the gifts, then the next logical question, the one that mirrors our confusion about worship, is
If he doesn't need it, why do you expect gifts from us? Why the command?
Yeah.
Why the expectation? And this is where the focus shifts completely away from need
towards
the true purpose. The source gives the direct answer from the parable. It's not about the value of the gift or the Sultan's need. The issue is loyalty, devotion.
loyalty and devotion. So applying that back to our original question, does Allah need our prayers?
The answer through this lens becomes a firm no, he does not.
Then why the 5 daily prayers? Why is it such a pillar commanded so insistently?
The source says the issue is loyalty, devotion. The prayers are the means, the framework, the recurring opportunity, maybe even the test through which we show and build that loyalty.
Let's dig into that loyalty idea more. The source uses the example of the afternoon prayer, Azr.
Right. They describe Azr time as peak worldly engagement time, the world's most attractive time. People are busy with work, business, social life. Our attention is pulled outwards.
Makes sense.
And it's precisely then, in the midst of that distraction, that the azan calls. Allah Almighty calls you to prayer at that afternoon prayer. Now, does he need that specific prayer from us at 3 p.m. or whenever it is?
Based on the parable, no.
No, he doesn't need it. What's the issue? Loyalty.
So the timing itself is significant. It's like a divine check-in almost.
That's how the source presents it. Like the divine is observing, I wonder if my servant will leave the things that are most attractive to him in this world and come to my presence. Will you pause the world for me? Answering the call at Azr becomes a statement about where your true allegiance lies.
They even tackle that common thought. What if prayers were scheduled more conveniently? Like, if Fajr, the dawn prayer, was later, wouldn't more people pray?
Yeah, the practical argument. But the source's response is sharp. This would not happen. Meaning, changing the time wouldn't achieve the real purpose.
Why not?
Because, again, it is not about the prayer in the sense of just ticking a box or maximizing numbers easily. God forbid Allah does not need that prayer. What is the issue? Loyalty. It's about the quality of the response, especially when it's difficult.
This really frames loyalty not just as a feeling, but as something active, something that involves sacrifice.
Exactly. The source asks that pointed question. Do you know what the issue is? Will you be able to sacrifice the thing you love most for the one you love?
And Fajr is the prime example. Dawn prayer. What do most people love at that hour?
Sleep, comfort, warmth. Leaving that, especially in the cold and dark, is a real sacrifice for many. That's the test at Fajr, isn't it? Are you willing to give up that immediate comfort, that beloved thing, to answer the call of the one you claim to love most?
So, back to the Sultan parable again. Does my Sultan need these gifts? He doesn't need them. Then what is the meaning? The issue is loyalty, devotion. Our prayers aren't filling a gap in God, they're demonstrating our commitment, often by giving something up.
And the source stresses the impact of actually doing it, especially answering that Fajr call. When we go to that invitation in the morning, what have we done? We have sealed our loyalty. It's like a physical confirmation of an inner promise.
A declaration.
Declaration made real. Oh Lord, your servant has come, your slave has come. Showing up, proving your allegiance, no matter the personal cost.
Which leads right into the next big insight from the source. This connection between loyalty, sacrifice, and our own spiritual progress.
Yes, they call it a subtle point that many people do not realize, and it's presented as the absolute key to spiritual advancement.
And that key is?
Sacrifice. The source says the greatest condition for progress in spirituality is sacrifice. Not just learning facts or going through motions. It's the willingness to give something up for Allah's sake. That's what propels you forward.
How does that work?
They explain it directly. If you sacrifice that hour of the morning for Fajr to Allah, you will rise spiritually. Giving up something you desire, sleep, time, ease to obey him. That act itself elevates your soul. It makes the devotion concrete.
And the source speaker shares their own struggle with this, right? It wasn't just an intellectual idea they easily accepted.
No, far from it.
Yeah.
They mention reading about this in Rissalyaner for a very long time. I read and read. But it is mentioned everywhere. I just don't understand.
So knowing it intellectually wasn't enough.
Apparently not. They kept wondering, why did His Excellency Ustad Bediüzzaman Said Nursi mention this issue so much? Reading it daily, expecting the understanding to just click, to disappear into clarity. But it remained confusing.
They even mentioned a specific metaphor that stumped them.
The seed metaphor, this tree thing. They remember thinking, why is he saying seed, tree, and soil so much? I don't understand. It doesn't open up at all. The analogy wasn't working for them until they made a sacrifice. The breakthrough wasn't just from more reading. The source explicitly links the understanding to a specific personal act of sacrifice they undertook for Allah's sake.
What was the sacrifice?
They decided to travel to a place called Antep, specifically for the sake of Allah. So the intention was key. And it wasn't easy. They had bad knee pain, my knee hurt, the drive was long and tiring. Driving for 3-4 hours like that exhausted me a lot.
But they went anyway.
They did. They pushed through no matter what. Comfort, pain, secondary. They resolved to go, trusting things would be okay later. I said, if you rest for a day, it will pass. They really had to make an effort. I squeezed and went to Antep.
And what happened when they got back? After the trip?
I opened Rissalyaner. I understood it in my own way. Suddenly the text was confusing, started making sense. And reading more after that experience brought even deeper understanding.
Wow. So the understanding flowed directly from the act.
That's exactly how the source presents it. When something was sacrificed for Allah, it became clear. The experience of doing, of demonstrating loyalty under difficulty, unlocked the meaning. A loyalty being tested, passing that test, opened the door.
So prayer times like Fajr and Asr, the challenging ones, they aren't just rituals. They're like recurring opportunities for this kind of growth.
Exactly. Daily tests of loyalty. Chances for sacrifice that lead to spiritual rising. Fajr means sacrificing sleep, a clear sign of loyalty. Asr means consciously putting the world aside, seeing its attractions as fleeting. This world is a piece of cloth for me, worth 5 cents. Compared to Allah's greatness and the need for his approval. But you are absolute, O Lord, I must get your consent. This is also a sign of this.
The source shares a really intense story related to this about someone missing Fajr.
Oh yes, very powerful. An individual misses the dawn prayer and reacts with extreme remorse. They actually burned their bed and blanket.
Burn them.
Their reasoning, as reported, was devastatingly simple. If it is comfortable for you to miss Fajr, it is forbidden. They saw the comfort itself as the enemy that caused the lapse, something to be destroyed. The source says, look, this is the issue of loyalty. It shows a level of commitment that absolutely prioritizes answering the call over any personal comfort.
That's incredibly intense. It really drives home the value placed on this loyalty through sacrifice.
It really does. And to bring this idea of loyalty's power to life even more, the source uses another famous story.
Which one?
The people of the cave, Bashab al-Kaf.
Ah, yes. The young believers escaping persecution, hiding in the cave.
Right. The source sets it up. 6 people fleeing, joined by a shepherd and his dog, making 7 people and the dog. They go into the cave and sleep for, well, centuries. 300 years or so.
And the key point for this discussion happens when they enter the cave.
Yes. The shepherd tries to get the dog to leave, maybe worried it would make noise or something. But the dog does not leave. It insists on staying with its master.
Just stays with them.
Stays with them. And the source says, there the dog actually teaches us a lesson. What lesson? Pure loyalty. I will not leave the presence of my master. The dog's instinct is simple. Where does my master go? I am going there.
So the dog becomes a symbol of unwavering devotion.
A potent symbol. No complex reasoning, just pure loyalty. He gives us a lesson of loyalty.
And then the miracle happens. After 300 years, Allah awakens the sleepers.
And the dog too. Does he resurrect the dog as well?
Yeah.
He does resurrect it. The dog that faithfully stayed at the entrance is included in the awakening.
What meaning does the source draw from that?
Something profound. Do you know what this means? Loyalty resurrects, revives a person. This simple animal, just through its unwavering loyalty, is elevated, included in this divine event. It suggests loyalty itself has immense value, enough to revive even a creature like a dog in this context.
That really connects to our lives, the trials we face.
Absolutely. The source acknowledges it. I know we face many trials and tribulations. It comes for all of us. Life is full of hard choices. We always have to choose comfort or commitment, ease or the path of loyalty.
And these trials aren't just random.
Not according to the source. Allah puts it there purposefully. Why? He wants to see your loyalty. The challenges are seen as divinely ordained tests, chances for us to show where our allegiance truly lies.
So the message becomes,
Whatever you do, my friend, stay strong, but always choose the path of Allah. Even when it's hard, when sometimes we will be sad, sometimes we'll be tired, keep choosing loyalty.
and the dog remains this powerful reminder.
A constant reminder. Isn't even a small animal among the exemplary animals that will enter paradise? Why is this dog Kitmir so honored? It doesn't have human intellect or perform rituals, but it embodies this essential quality, this manifestation. What is it? There is loyalty in Kitmir. That pure, unwavering loyalty is what matters.
It really emphasizes that sincerity and action are valued regardless of the scale.
And circling back one last time to the main question, does Allah Almighty need our worship? The answer is still no, but the real question becomes, what changes for you when you consistently offer that loyalty when you pray? The source's answer, after all this, rank. Your spiritual station, your closeness to God, your own inner reality, that's what's transformed.
The source also briefly touched on the Eid sacrifice, didn't it? Eid al-Adha.
Yes, another example. Prophet Ibrahim being commanded to sacrifice his son, then given a ram instead. The command was about sacrifice, the most acceptable and the most beautiful. But what happens to the meat?
We eat it, share it, it benefits people.
Right. So Allah didn't need the physical offering. What was the point? I want your loyalty. It was about testing Ibrahim's willingness to obey, to sacrifice what he loved most, checking that inner state. Do you have obedience, loyalty? I want to see it. Again, the focus is on our inner reality, demonstrated through action.
It all seems to keep coming back to that parable of the poor man and his gift, especially this idea of intention.
It really does. Think about his gift again, that piece of tin. Worthless in worldly terms. But his intention, great and grand. He wanted to give the diamonds and rubies, recognizing the Sultan deserved them.
And the source stresses that this intention is what truly counts.
Intention is priceless. That's the key insight. Worldly value is irrelevant. What Allah accepts, especially from us, who are described as helpless ones, unable to offer anything truly worthy materially.
What does he accept?
He accepts his intention and his noble and high dignity of faith as the greatest gift. It's the interstate faith, recognizing God's greatness, sincerely wanting to obey and please Him that gives our small actions immense value.
The source mentions a really profound statement connected to this, attributed to the prophet, peace be upon him, during the Miraj, the heavenly ascent.
Yes, presenting praise. He's described as saying something like, we present the praise of the whole universe to Allah. That is, I present to you the benevolence and worship that all creatures offer you with their souls on my own behalf.
So he's gathering up all the praise inherent in creation.
Exactly, and presenting it to Allah on his own behalf. It mirrors the poor man's gesture, but on a cosmic level. It's saying, oh Lord, my own praise is nothing, but I recognize you deserve the praise of everything. So I offer that universal praise to you as an expression of my faith and devotion.
Like the poor man saying, I only have this tin, but if I could, I'd give you all those jewels because you deserve them.
Precisely. What's present in both. There is intention and faith here. That's the real offering.
It reminds me of that hadith. How much better is the intention of a believer than his action?
Exactly. The action is the outer form. The intention is the inner reality, the spirit that gives it value. The source calls this sincere intention, combined with faith, a very comprehensive gratitude. It's an active state of devotion.
And that seed metaphor that was confusing earlier, does it fit here?
The source suggests the connection. The intentions of plants and seeds are their intentions. Maybe the idea is just like a tiny seed contains the potential for a huge tree, our small actions, when powered by immense intention and faith, contain vast spiritual potential and value. The power is in the hidden inner reality.
That makes the metaphor click much better. Potential with an intention.
Right. And the source wraps up by reminding us that really getting these deep truths isn't just intellectual.
It requires effort.
To understand these, we must make many sacrifices. The understanding deepens to the lived experience of loyalty, especially when it costs us something.
And they conclude with those beautiful supplications.
Yes. Subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana innaka antal alimul hakim. Glorified are you, we only know what you've taught us. You are the knowing, the wise. And the end of the matter is, praise be to Allah, Lord of the worlds, bringing it all back to gratitude and acknowledging divine lordship.
It really encapsulates the journey, doesn't it? From does God need this to understanding worship as our path to demonstrating loyalty and growing closer to Him.
It transforms the whole perspective. Prayer isn't just an obligation. It's this incredible opportunity for connection, for showing love, for elevation.
So, wrapping up this deep dive, the core takeaway from our source is pretty clear. Allah doesn't need our worship in the sense of lacking something. He is absolute self-sufficient.
Right. Instead, worship, especially prayer, is the means provided for us. It's how we demonstrate loyalty, build devotion, and ultimately elevate our own spiritual state.
And what truly resonates in the divine sight isn't the size or worldly value of what we do, but the sincerity behind it. Our intention, our faith, our willingness to choose loyalty, especially through sacrifice.
All those examples really drive that home. The friend choosing prayer over the journey, the poor man's intention outweighing his gift, the dog's simple loyalty being rewarded, the personal sacrifice unlocking understanding. They all point to the same truth.
Those moments where loyalty is tested, where we have to choose between ease and devotion, they're not burdens. They're precious chances.
Which leaves us, and you listening, with something powerful to reflect on, doesn't it? The next time you hear that call to prayer or face a choice worldly comfort versus an act of devotion,
Ask yourself, what loyalty is being tested here? What sacrifice is being invited? And what spiritual rank, what closeness might be gained by choosing loyalty, by putting the eternal first?
and think about that power of intention. How can you consciously cultivate that grand, sincere intention, recognizing Allah's majesty, desiring His pleasure, so that even your smallest acts become, in His sight, like boundless gifts?
Look for those moments of choice. See them not as difficulties, but as sacred opportunities to deepen your connection, express your love, and grow spiritually, just as the source described finding clarity through their own act of sacrifice.
A beautiful way to approach our daily lives. Thanks for joining us on this exploration.
Always a pleasure. May understanding illuminate your path.